Hello, honors students. This is Mrs. Bullard, and I am going to be walking you through how to write the TDA in a few short series of videos. Today's focus is just going to be on writing the introduction of your TDA, which stands for your text dependent analysis. Text is the book Refugee. Dependent is what you write is dependent on that text, and you will use that text to help you make analysis. And analysis is just your original thinking about a text. Okay. So when you take the South Carolina Ready test, it'll probably be in June this year. You will have one TDA question. You will get some sort of a text. It could be a poem, it could be a newspaper article, a short story. I don't know what it's going to be. So we're going to start practicing for that with Refugee. When you look at your organizer, yours is going to look a little different from mine. Yours is going to be blank. Mine, I've gone ahead and filled in as an example of what I'm looking for an introduction. And as a side note, I go to meetings and I talk to 7th and 8th grade teachers a lot. And one thing that they're expecting for honors students to be able to do is to write a full 5-paragraph analysis essay, which is what this is. So just think about this is getting ready for 7th grade honors because you'll be doing similar things like this next year as well. So this is in preparation for a test in June and for 7th grade. So if you would think about your prompt, okay, let's go back to the prompt and look at it. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can see it. And we unpacked the prompt already, but I just want to kind of refresh what the actual question is so it'll make more sense how we're putting the introduction together. So this novel is organized in a 3-plot story structure. Structure is just how you build something. So the book was built basically with 3 different stories. And here's the actual action that you would do. Write an essay explaining how the author's use of story structure communicates a common universal theme. So when I say story structure, the 3 plots, the 3 stories, how all 3 of those stories share one common theme. You can see this theme in all 3 stories. Okay? Cite textual evidence from the novel to support your response. So you need to have a copy of the book with you. If you don't have a copy of the book, make sure it's in your hand. You'll need that definitely when you get into writing the body part of the essay. Then it says write an introduction, which is what we're going to do in this video, with a thesis sentence and 3 supporting claims. You should cite evidence relevant and sufficient from the book to support each of your claims in the body paragraphs. Your conclusion should restate your thesis and synthesize your thinking. Use your completed TDA organizer as you write. So we're going to take this step by step. That's a lot. That is a lot to do. So we're just going to focus on the introduction, thesis, and how to put that together. So going back to my organizer, I'm going to start with the introduction. So anytime you start an essay, you want to start with a hook. A hook is a sentence or a couple of sentences that grabs the reader's attention. And there are some tried and true ways to do this. So it says 1 to 2 sentences about the topic related to your thesis. So you kind of need to know what the theme of the theme that you see in all 3 stories is, so that you know what that topic is. It could be family, sacrifice, loss, courage. So 1 to 2 sentences related to that topic, and it can be a general statement, okay? Something very broad. You don't get into the details of the book. Don't even mention the book in the hook. Don't even mention it. Something broad and general first. A rhetorical question is a question you're asking the reader of your essay. You're not expecting a response. It's something that when you ask the reader a question, when you pose a question, it immediately involves the reader because naturally they're going to want to answer that question. And so you're hooking the reader in by asking a rhetorical question. A related quote, perhaps there's a quote, a famous quote that you know, something inspirational that you can find. not necessarily a quote from the book, but a quote from another source that might be related to one of the topic that you're thinking about. Or perhaps you want to start with the definition of your topic. You could do that. So my topic is sacrifice. Okay, I saw this topic as a theme in all three of the stories from Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud. So my hook is going to be about sacrifices. I'm not jumping into the story yet. I'm just talking about sacrifices in general. And I chose rhetorical question for my hook. So this is what I wrote. What sacrifices would you make in order to survive? See, just by asking that question, my reader is engaged. Okay, my reader is probably thinking about what would I sacrifice? How far would I go in order to survive? That's the point of a rhetorical question. This might be an interesting question to ponder, but for many people, even children, this is a startling reality. Refugees are forced into situations where their very survival depends on making personal sacrifices. So I'm speaking generally. I'm not talking about the characters yet. I'm getting there. But it's just a very general discussion about the topic that's going to bring your reader into the specifics of the book. Okay? So I just talked about refugees in general, and you should too. Okay? I want you to pause the video. I want you to think about what kind of hook you would like to use, a general statement, a question, a quote, or a definition. Think about the topic that you're going to be writing about based on the theme that you see in all three of the stories. And then I want you to draft out your hook for your introductory paragraph. And then when you're done, come back to the next part of the introduction. All right, now we're going to move on to the second part of the introduction. And when you're writing an analysis essay about a novel, you have to give a little bit of information about the book. You don't want to get into details here. This is just a general summary of the book. I have read this book. Your teachers have read this book. You don't need to give us detailed summaries, but you do need to introduce the book because that's what you're going to be talking about. So this is 3 to 5 sentences introducing the text. You're going to include the book title. And when you're typing book titles, you need to italicize. You can see where I wrote refugee in the box. It's italicized, it's slanted. You need to introduce the author, the genre of the book, and a quick, short plot summary. And when you're summarizing it, you want to emphasize the topic that you're going to be talking about. And for me, I said earlier, it's sacrifices. Okay. Do not go into much detail. I want you to save your supporting reasons for the body paragraphs. All those details that you want to talk about, save that for the body. That's what you're going to need in those body paragraphs. Always write about the characters and events in the present tense. So with fiction, you can always read this book. It's never going to be in the past tense. That's just kind of a general rule when you're writing about literature. The characters are always in the present tense, and you'll see that in my example. So here's my book summary. Notice how I include the title, author, genre, and a quick summary. In the historical fiction novel Refugee by Alan Gratz, there's the genre, title, and author right there. And here comes the summary. 3 young refugees protect their families, summon courage, and make sacrifices in order to survive. Notice how I mentioned sacrifices because that's what my whole essay is going to be about. Joseph, a Jewish refugee, Isabel, a Cuban refugee, and Mahmoud, a Syrian refugee, all make sacrifices in order to save their families and themselves from wars and persecution in their native homelands. So I just barely introduced the characters. I didn't go into any detail, okay? And here's a little bit more summary. These characters make heartbreaking choices when they give up treasured possessions, their homes, and even loved ones. Because many of the themes this book teaches, readers learn many important life lessons about the refugee experience and the importance of recognizing these often forgotten people. There's a summary. I don't go into any depth here, just a quick summary, which is leading the reader, that's you, into my thesis sentence. And I'm going to pause here. I'm not going to show you my thesis yet. I want to pause here. I want you to write a quick summary. You can use mine as an example. Don't copy it, but you can use mine as an example to come up with your summary of Refugee, and then we'll talk about the thesis in the last part of this video. All right, we finally made it to the thesis. Now, the thesis sentence is the most important sentence of a 5-paragraph essay. It is the heart of your essay. This is what you are going to be proving true using evidence and analysis. You're going to be proving this true to the reader of your essay. This is called argument writing, and this is basically your argument. Just like a lawyer goes into court, a lawyer has an argument he presents to the judge and jury. This is opinion. And he has to support that with evidence. Otherwise, he'll lose his case. And that's what you're going to do. Okay. This is your opinion that you're going to prove to be true. And it's always the last sentence of the introduction. It always is the last sentence. So save the last sentence for your thesis. So remember, the prompt asks you to write about one theme that's common to all 3 stories, the structure of how Refugee was written. And my theme that I chose is about sacrifices. So I wrote my thesis in this way. One common theme found in the 3 stories of Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud is survival often depends on making sacrifices. So when you write your thesis, you can use this very same sentence, but just replace the theme that you're going to be writing about with mine about making sacrifices. So you set yours up exactly the same way. And Joseph, Isabel, and Mahmoud, those are going to be where you go into each body paragraph about each of those stories' themes. So we can, and they're all themes, in my case, about making sacrifices. So I want you to pause the video and write your thesis sentence using the theme that you see in all 3 of those stories, and then come back for a little wrap up. All right, good job. You've written in the introduction of a 5-paragraph argument literary analysis essay. That's pretty fantastic. Just kind of go back and make sure that you have everything in your organizer. You should have a hook, kind of introducing the reader into bringing the reader into your essay, drawing the reader in. You should have a summary, a very general summary that introduces the book and the main characters and what the book is generally about. And then your last sentence is going to be that thesis sentence that is your opinion, that is your argument that you're going to be proving to be true in the body parts of the essay, which we'll get to in another video. So double check that, and you are done with this little tutorial on writing the introduction.